Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shift Happens podcast. Before we dive into the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Are you a leader navigating constant change and your team is looking to you for answers you don't have yet? The Change Leader program is here to help. At Tona Business, we work with leaders to turn chaos into clarity, retain your best people, and lead through disruption without losing trust, momentum, or your own sanity. So if you're facing restructuring, AI shifts, disengagement, or just need your people to rally behind you again, let's talk. Reach out or head over to tonobusiness.com to find out more. Today, we are joined by Emre Schveighoffer, CEO of National Resource Management. For more than 30 years, NRM has been transforming businesses that depend on refrigeration, helping organizations from corner stores to universities and pharmaceutical facilities move from reactive to predictive operations. With over 50,000 systems in place delivering up to 40% energy savings, NRM is known for technology that doesn't just save energy, it saves businesses. Emry brings a people first approach to leading innovation that protects critical assets and prevents costly failures before they happen. Welcome to the Shift Happens podcast, Emry.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
I hope I didn't miss anything on the introduction. I try
Oh, that was really
to
good. That's better than I would do. That was my elevator speech that I'm going to save that.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for being here today, Emily. I do appreciate your time. So let's start the conversation about change, about an experience that you had in your life that was a big change, a big impactful change for you, and what were your learnings from that?
At my age, I can say I had a lot of those, a lot of aha moments. And some of them was, within the business itself. And when we first started doing this around 30 years ago, we didn't realize the impact we could have. Initially, it was just to save some energy, and customers loved it. Utility companies loved it because they paid for most of it. And I'm going like, well, and it ends up, we didn't really realize the real benefit, the value that the customers, so getting super clear on the problem we solve was a big aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
It was more on the operations side because utilities bill savings, people are going to pay the electric bill no matter what
Mm-hmm.
to stay in business. But when it impacts how they're operating, this is a quick example. I have a customer that does about 1 million pounds of spinach processing per week.
Mm-hmm.
And when they depend on our systems, I couldn't run my place without this. Same thing like at Harvard University, they have all their coolers, dining coolers on our system. So, it's loss prevention, protecting equipment, and just running things much better. The other thing is focusing on what are the customer benefits? How do we transition to becoming a partner instead of who understands what they do? So in the beginning, we didn't know as much about refrigeration, how people were using it. We also didn't know that most users really don't understand refrigeration. In their mind, I'm buying cold. So when you look at it from that point of view, okay, but you don't know what's delivering the cold and is it doing efficiently? Is it doing, what if it breaks down? Because they don't understand, most of them have redundant systems to have two
Mm-hmm.
instead of one. A lot of times they don't know one's already broke.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's those are some of the things, and shifting our sales, which is really a sales junkie in a way, and shifting sales mindset from sales to how we help. How can we help?
Mm-hmm.
Because I look at sales in our perspective here's how do we guide the customer to buy what we sell? Because nobody comes to us and say, I want to buy your stuff. And when they don't know, because they don't know they have the problem. The problem is they don't know what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's just a quick aha. Those are the aha moments that have changed from a business perspective of how we go about solving people's problems and addressing them, and they become loyal customers for
Mhm.
many, many years.
First time we talked, Emry, to me, it was so interesting to learn more about your business model. And I love some things that you mentioned, like they don't know what they don't know. They may have a problem, but they don't even know yet, right? And it goes with the cost energy part of that. But not only that, is how dependent they are for the success for their business, of their refrigeration, and how you and your systems, your company can help them to monitor more efficiently and to avoid problems in the future that they can lose like everything literally
Yeah.
that they have, right?
Yeah, we've had customers report to us prior to coming to us, I lost $4 million over a weekend. Pharmaceutical company, or somebody who's a meat processor lost $150,000 over a weekend
Mm-hmm.
because equipment went down and they didn't know. They could have known ahead of time because it takes a long time for stuff to get to the point
Mm-hmm.
where they have to throw it away. But
Yes.
so those are just some of the things. But I think from a business perspective and just a personal perspective, when we talk about you don't know what you don't know, well, that's how I think we all start. We don't know what we don't know. We got to figure it out.
You got to figure it
So,
out. Yeah.
so people that start businesses, I see some of them that they just quit after a while because
Mm-hmm.
they came so close to making it, and all of a sudden they just stopped. And we just said, we're not going to worry about what other people do with regard to controlling refrigeration. We're just going to do it our way. So that means we don't want to be in our mindset. We didn't want to worry about what other people are doing. We don't want to
Mm-hmm.
make their stuff better. We don't want to do, oh, we're better than them. No, I just want to be comprehensive as an engineer. And, we'll probably get into some of the other stuff, but as an engineer, we're problem solvers.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yes.
look we
Correct.
look deep. We're trying to find the root cause of everything, and finding the
Mm-hmm.
root cause, whether it's leadership or equipment, whatever it is, you have to find a root. Why isn't this working?
Mm-hmm.
So
And work for that. One of the beautiful things about the story of your company is that you grew by listening to the needs of the customers. Sometimes it sounds so obvious, but so many companies miss that. They just look internally and don't really understand the market to serve them,
yeah.
really to address the needs, right? And that builds so much value in the relationship. Huh?
Well, it goes from the top down. When salespeople, when we hire salespeople, they have the sales mindset. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you have commission breath, the customer's going to pick up that all you're worried about is making a sale.
Mm-hmm.
Said, why don't you focus on solving a problem? If there is a problem, first you got to find out if there is a problem. It's like you go to the doctor and say, oh, well, I got this thing. I said, well, the doctor's going to ask you, well, when did it start? How bad is it? In other words, they can't help you until they understand your situation. And
Mm-hmm.
we're like in the same boat because most of our customers look at their cooler and the contents like their children. So they don't let us just go in there and do our thing because they go, you're going to mess with my children, you know, and that's how they perceive what it is we do. So we have an impact, but we have to basically earn their trust and say, hey, this,
Mm-hmm.
if Harvard trusts you and this company trusts you, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'll listen to you.
Yes, absolutely. Trust is very important. Um, can you think about a story of change that you lived in the company or outside the company? And what were the skills you used to go through that change effectively? What were the failures, the learnings that you had?
So I'm going to say one thing. I feel like I'm a perpetual apprentice. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
learning. And during this path of starting a company, running it from just working in my basement or whatever in the garage to
Uh-huh.
now having, a number of employees and having all this under our belt. And you see, you're learning, you're going through this path, and you just have to pay attention and listen to yourself. You have those internal conversations, and the conversations you have in here, you have to. I never thought about, because I was born in Hungary, we were peasants. So I learned you never look down on anybody and you don't have to look up to anybody. We're all equal. We come from the same source. And when you treat people that way and out of respect and just say, hey, listen, you're just like me, I'm just like you. It's just that I've learned a few things that maybe you haven't learned. And we want to share that information with you to see if it'll help you.
Mhm.
And I think that's comes to even our employees. We go like, if somebody's struggling and I look at it from how you learn anything.
Mhm.
So let's say you want to learn to fly an airplane. You can watch a video, you can read a book, you can do all this stuff, but you still can't fly. What do you have to do? You have to get in and practice flying. You have to practice. And as you're practicing, whether it's driving a car, eventually you build a robot inside you that says, oh, I know how to drive a car. Now I can drive my car without having to think about it. And when it comes to people, you kind of have to do the same thing. And
Mhm.
it also allows me, if I hire somebody for a specific job, I go like, they have to go through that process of practicing that job until they become really good at it and
Mhm.
pay attention and coach them. And that's where coaching comes in, which is, I think, something you do. And I think it's important to be able to recognize opportunities for improvement.
Mhm. True. Um, Change is all about people, right? But also, as you're mentioning, training and all of that is all the processes involved as well.
Yeah.
You have to empower the people to be successful in this journey and being with them and understanding their needs as well, helping them to grow and act equally, as you said, as a teamwork, taking the different perspectives and insights, right? That's how you grow.
Well, it's also recognizing how did people get to be where they are.
Yes.
And one of the quotes I love from Ralph Waldo Emerson is, what you are speaks so loud, I can't hear what you're saying.
Hmm.
And I always look at that as like saying, so true. People say, I'm doing this. I go like, yeah, but you're acting this way. And, so, and people are insecure. When they're insecure, they're going to do things to try to sell you on, I'm really good. I can do this. I can do it. I can do it. But they can never demonstrate that. And they don't know how to ask for help because they're afraid to ask for help because it makes them feel like, oh, somebody's going to judge me that I don't know my job or I don't know. No, you know your job. You just don't know a little piece of it and
Mhm.
another little piece and another little piece until you get all the pieces together. And that's how I feel like my business over the years, we've learned little pieces of just from customers tell me. So now I see customers tell me how to sell to them,
Mhm.
you know, that tell me why you think you might need this. How is this going to change your life? Because in sales, we call it selling is change. Something has to change.
Mhm.
And some people resist the change. And I think we talked about
Absolutely.
that a little bit last time because resistance to change is because they don't want it. People will change once they actually want it, but they have to have the rational and the feelings behind, man, my life is going to be so different once I am able to do this.
Mhm. And sell the benefits, right? I mean, if you think about from a sales perspective, in your example, in when you approach a client or a potential client, right? How do you sell them or how do you show them that this change that you are proposing here is important? And how do you not persuade, not convince, but how you get them to buy in and to really see the value and be willing to start partnering with you?
Well, it's like eventually we become experts in like a doctor. Okay. Having seen what goes on with 50,000 systems, I
Mm-hmm.
personally haven't seen all 50,000, but you get to find all the things that go wrong and you recognize patterns. You recognize many of the problems people have is the people. People leave a door open or they forget to turn something on or they forget to turn something off, which
Yes.
results in a catastrophic failure in many cases. So once you recognize what those things are, now it comes down to when we do our inquiry with the customer, like, have you ever had this problem? Or we know the kind of problems they have. If you have refrigeration, you're going to have this problem. Like, for example, K through 12 schools.
Hmm.
You know, the lunch lady that comes in at 8 o'clock in the morning, she's gone by 2. Well, what happens after 2? So anything could happen. Nobody, you know, they can come in the next morning and it's 60 degrees and they're cooler and they can't feed people. So that's a huge personal impact to that person. There's a scramble. What do we do? How are we going to feed all these people now? And this is when Harvard came to us. They had just lost $8,000 or $25,000 over a weekend. I said, I can't have that happen ever again. You know, it's like people still go there. It's like you went to your favorite store and all of a sudden, hey, the store's closed. Sorry, we're closed. We can't sell you anything because everything's bad. And so those are the kind of things that we're trying to help customers prevent. So finding those pains and saying, let's figure out a way to avoid that never ever happens again. And that's where we build that loyalty and that people continue to use our system. We had to build a platform so we could see everything that's going on. We had to deal with IT stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot about our product because customers told us what we can and can't do. You know, because they have IT people, there's cybersecurity, there's all these things because we're in the hospitals, we're in kind of environments where it's not easy to get on their network.
Oh yes, I wonder that.
Yeah.
But as you grow, and it's interesting that you have a very diverse set of industries as clients, right? And different specificities, but it still is the same system that you probably adjust to the need of the client, that specific industry, of course, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's anywhere from Dunkin' Donuts, liquor stores, convenience stores on up to we're doing a 350,000 square foot warehouse in New York right now.
Mm.
And they're going to save $50,000 a month.
Oh wow. And
Yeah.
when you say that, is the whole storage is refrigerated? Is like the whole.
Yep.
Oh
But
wow.
when you think of New York and large cities, there's
Yeah.
8 million people in New York. They all eat. So this is part of the food chain, you know. And I always tell people, what do you do? I work for food. But
Sure.
we all work for food technically, but
Yes, yes. You literally work for food. It's broader. Not just for you, but for the whole community. Absolutely. I work for food too, but just for me and my family. Absolutely. I love that. It's a good way to say. All right. And you mentioned about managing resistance and or dealing with resistance, right? With clients, in terms of, to show the values, the benefits, and all of that. And how do you deal? And yeah, the principles could be the same, but have you had situations that you dealt with resistance internally, and how did you approach in those cases?
well, you just have to reframe and paint the picture of how it's going to be a positive. Like when we first started doing the remote management,
Mm-hmm.
new system, new concept. And initially I started it because sometimes customer would have a problem, but they're a 3 or 4 hour drive away from here. They called
Mm-hmm.
up panicking because our system was pretty good. Then we get there and then we find out, well, it has nothing to do with us. And I'm going like, damn, I wish I'd had a way to see what was going on before you drive out there. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how we got started with the online presence. And that really helps us to diagnose problems.
Mm-hmm.
And we did another smart thing in the beginning because we weren't 100% on exactly how to do this. So we installed our controls and kept the existing controls as a backup. So a customer thought we were causing a problem, just turn this off. Everything goes back the way it was. If the
Mm-hmm.
problem that you're having didn't go away, it didn't have anything to do with the controls. So that was a good thing. And so now we actually have one customer that deals with a lot of small restaurants. They're buying anywhere between 50 and 100 of our systems per week.
Mm-hmm.
And this first time I saw one in Alaska, I go like, oh my God, they're also in Alaska.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's the resistance part is a listening thing. You just have to listen and
Mhm.
you just have to find out where's the customer's heart at, because you always sell from your heart. You know, if if you have integrity, you have good intentions. And there's some people that always, they've dealt with a lot of salespeople and they always expect to be sold.
Mhm.
And then, so you have to overcome that initial process of, and when you're in sales, a lot of salespeople are looking at the scoreboard. How much am I going to make? Stop looking at the scoreboard, pay attention to your presentation. If you do your presentation and you listen to the customer, and if we're not a good fit, just say, hey, we're not a good fit. It's having that integrity of saying, you can't make that sale. There's some sales you're just not going to make
Yes.
because the customer's been harmed in the past by somebody else and he doesn't trust anybody, regardless of what we say.
Mhm.
And, unless they talk to one of our customers that are happy and just say, listen, I can see we're not going to get anywhere.
Mhm.
Would you like to talk to somebody who does what you do and see how it's helped them?
Successfully and all.
And
Mhm.
then, it's like a testimonial type, and many of our
Yes.
customers are happy and willing to do that. So those are ways to overcome objections, overcome skepticism, because it is skeptical. When somebody comes to you and say, hey, listen, here's some vitamins. Can you give these to your kid? And you're going to go, no way.
Mhm.
I want to talk to my doctor first. So a lot of times they want to talk to their technician who services the equipment before they let us touch any of their stuff. But you learn and say that's just part of the process. That's the way it is. And we're always looking for ways to overcome that preemptively. So before we go to see a customer, say, hey, could you mind watching a video, watching a little bit of what we've done? So when we show up, you're not totally in the dark about what we do.
Mhm.
And if you're interested, if you happen to know anybody at this company that we've installed for, you can check us out.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, it's really a common sense process. It's not rocket science.
Mhm.
It's paying
Yeah, you're
attention.
showing the value, right?
Yeah.
And it goes beyond the testimonial. I mean, nowadays, if you think about, I mean, with the AI and all, it's very hard. I mean, the trust. I was looking at a trust barometer. That's how they call from an institution and another client. They were talking about that, and there were some statistics which, unfortunately, I don't remember details, but overall the whole trust not only in people but in organizations, in government, everywhere, not just in the US, everywhere in the world, is declining, right? And in this kind of environment that we live where trust overall is declining, how you can show the value not just by testimonials in a web page, but really bringing those videos, those cases of successes. And I think your idea is amazing as you have clients that will be willing to talk to other potential clients. That's such a great idea just to build that confidence coming from a peer or sometimes even a competitor in the market and how they've been successful implementing your systems. It's powerful.
Well, it comes down to what I've learned over the years. My mentor from many years ago, it really is fear and levels of fear. So any kind of hesitancy is based on fear.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is when we talk about trust, there's a lot of people don't trust themselves. They don't trust themselves to make a good decision. So the fear of doing something wrong is more powerful than fixing a problem. I'm okay. I'm comfortable. No, I don't need that.
Starts with them.
So that happens all the time. And regardless of the industry, regardless of what you do, what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and when you meet somebody and you kind of have to read and feel them out a little bit and say, okay, so when you have that level of confidence, when you talk about confidence is a feeling, fear is a feeling. All of these things are different grades of feeling. How powerful is that feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be sensitive to that. And so listening and paying attention to your feelings because you're picking up their feelings.
Yes.
And when you're picking up their feelings, you go, and then you have to say, hey, listen, I'm not sure, but I just have this feeling that maybe we're not connecting. Is it okay if I make a couple of suggestions and say, let's start from the beginning? Let's here's what I think. And then, you have to have permission, I guess, to really help people because they may not want you to help them,
Mm-hmm.
because they think you're trying to sell them something.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
that's the normal impression. You came to me, you must be trying to sell me something. I said, no, I looked at your rooftop from Google Maps and I could see you have X number of systems. And you're just like the guy across the street from you. And, we're going to save them a lot of money and we're also going to save their product. We're going to help their business operate better. But now you have a reference, a connection point. So you have to do
Mm-hmm.
a certain amount of research, whether it's on Google or on LinkedIn about that company. Say, can we help this company? Is it worth for us to actually connect with them?
Mm-hmm.
We have beer distributors. I mean, some of our companies, $30 billion company, like we've done 9 of their facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And you're never dealing with the owner in situations like that. In a liquor store, I'm dealing with the owner. So it ends up being a challenging kind of, how do we get the person who's running a warehouse? He doesn't care about saving energy. It's not his money. So you have to go like, what are all the decision makers? Who's going to be impacted the most by our system? And it's usually somebody who touches it every day. Every day I got to deal with this stuff. I'm going to help you. I'm going to make his life better. If I can make his life better, he's going to help me sell it to the people who actually have to write a check or get it approved.
Yes, yes, that's absolutely right. Yes. Wow, words of wisdom. I do appreciate all of that. I'm learning a lot. Um,
It wasn't until like Audible came out, I don't read. I don't have time to read usually. And I started listening to books and I do almost a book a week now. And then I started getting into a lot of books that were written in the like 1900, 1930s. Like Think and Grow Rich and all these really, really smart people,
mhm,
like Charles Hannell, who wrote the Master Key System, Orson Swett Martin. I mean, all these people, I never heard of them before. And I started listening to these great books with great ideas and mindset because those have transformed me to become more self-aware.
yes.
Okay, so I no longer have problems or think of things as problems. I don't worry about things. Worry is mental striving without a goal. That's how my
Yeah,
mentor taught me is worry is just mental striving. You're worried about, like something's going to happen. Well, what if it doesn't happen?
true. Hmm.
So I feel like changing the inside is more important than the stuff out here.
Yes. Wow. So if we shift gears now, Emery, and we think about the future, so what do you think? I mean, in your opinion, considering the market, the industry you are in, what are the skills that will take to be, people and companies to be successful in the next 5 years or so?
Well, in the last 2 years, I started really seeing about AI. Okay, AI,
Mm-hmm.
to me, AI is like this giant wave that's coming. And every day the wave's getting bigger. And,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're not paying attention, it's going to come right over you, or you can ride the wave. So now you have to learn how to do it. And it's something where it takes time to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
Little by little, you get to learn it. And I read a recent book called the AI Driven Leader, which gives you a very practical way to approach it. Like even if you didn't know anything about AI, ChatGPT, or any of these things, he gives you like, okay, ChatGPT, I want you to interview me because I don't know how you can help me. Can you interview me and ask me a bunch of questions so that I have an idea of how you can help me? They ask you about your job. They ask you what you do. They say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so okay, so here's some things I can do help you with, but I can, and you know, you start, that's a good start, but
Yes.
it's very practical as opposed to trying to dive in and oh, it's overwhelming. You know, do little by little and start using it day every day. I use it a little bit here, a little bit there. And I look at it more like the guy in the book says it's your thinking partner.
Yes.
So if you have,
Exactly. I agree.
so when I have an idea, I want to try something, I'm going like, hey, here's all the facts. This is what I'm thinking. This is the end result I want. Can you come up with like 3 or 4 ways of I can approach this? Because when it comes to security, you know, like security is a feeling when you feel secure in yourself, like confident.
Hmm.
So when you're dealing with people, you see some people are more dominant than others. They have a higher level of security. So there's the thing called security differentials.
Hmm.
Okay, so when you're in a meeting, if you come across as not as a know-it-all, but somebody that actually is an expert and actually knows the answers and is able to be confident, maybe is very good. Maybe in a social situation, he doesn't talk to anybody, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we all have our comfort zones in each one of those areas because life
Hmm.
is very complex.
Hmm.
And so I I love working. I love what I'm doing. And it's scary because everybody goes, why don't you just go retire? You know, I'm 78. I'm going, yeah, but I like it. I
Yeah.
like what I'm doing. And every day is a fun day and throw me a problem and I'll work on it, you know, and throw me something. And a customer will call, I need help, I need help. And, you know, like it makes you feel good when you're helping somebody.
It gives you purpose, right?
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
amazing. That's Yeah, I believe in that too, because when you love, when you do, and you have this purpose in your heart, right, that you can make a business or a life of someone of a business, better, why not? You can do it, right? You can make a difference in someone's lives or someone's business. So, yes,
well, I'm
that's.
actually working on my book that from my Indian yogi mentor that went 50 something
Hmm.
ago. And he did a training that changed my life way back then. I was an engineer working at a company and I just saw like, man, I just can't see myself doing this forever.
Hmm.
And he says, you know, once you go into sales, go into something that every day you're meeting different people every day, you know, like, yeah, but I'm not a salesperson, I'm an engineer. But, you know, you have to learn it just like you learn to drive a car.
Yeah.
Sales is the same thing. You got to practice, get better. And then you realize that everything in life is like that.
Hmm.
And, you know, you can go get an MBA, but so now you have an MBA. Doesn't mean you're still the best at something. And over time, I've learned that that process is always working and appreciate that process. Be thankful that says, wow, it's working. It's still working. Thank you. So everything you put in, you have your conscious and subconscious mind, because I've read many, many books on the whole topic. And in this last one, I'm listening to Neville Goddard, who you may have never heard of him, but he talks about how we are all connected. Like if I have warm feelings for somebody, like I want them to be, let's say, help them some way. He says, you don't even have to connect with them. You can just do it mentally and you can send them whatever feelings. And so I look at, you know, every day have a positive. The good feeling that I have for myself and others is positive in my life.
Yes. Oh my, that's so nice. Yes. Today in this podcast, we are learning also about, to me, it's a lesson. It's not just about business, it's about life. So, wow, I do appreciate that, Emry. Yeah. So if we'll finalize, and you're saying so many things related to my last question now, but um, how would you summarize in few words, like the secret of your success? I mean, you came from Hungary. I think the language barrier and all this, challenges that you had as an immigrant. I can resonate so much with that too as an immigrant in America. So, um, tell me, what did it take for you to be a successful and like happy business person in the United States?
Well, I came to the United States. I couldn't speak a word of English. I was 10 years old. I was born in a little tiny village, uh, peasant village, actually. But, it was one of those things you're dumped into this area and you go like, oh my God, I felt like I time traveled when I came here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when I look at everything, well, the question you asked is like, okay, I kind of wrote a couple of notes down. I said, you are a genius and you're always in a state of becoming. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
pay attention. You're a genius and you're always in the state of becoming. What am I? So you got to pay attention to what you're becoming, because if you're not paying attention, there are consequences, because you can be going in the wrong direction. And we all know people that have gone in the wrong direction.
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
it's always a choice. So it's important that you never look down on people and look up to them and appreciate life the way it is. And it's like, I don't want to be that person. I just want to be me.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to, because you only get to do it once.
Yes.
Maybe the next time you have a different life, but right now, appreciate what you have.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you look at it that way, then the right decisions will come from within.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
I heard a story once, like we said, God said, people are going to want to figure out the secret to life. And all the people, the angels and them say, oh, put it at the highest mountain. They won't ever. He says, no, they're clever. Humans are clever. They'll get up there. So what about putting it at the bottom of the ocean? He says, no. So he says, I know where I'm going to put it. The last place they'll look. And he goes, well, where's that? In their heart. So when you look, always look within. In is the way out. How's that?
Mm. Exactly. Oh, wow, I have so many quotes. I'm so happy this is recorded podcast so I can, go back to the transcript and all and just, take all these notes because it's for me, it's for us, and it's for life. I love that. You went above and beyond. Thank you so much, Emry. Again, it's we all make businesses happen, but before anything, we're humans connecting to each other, and all these lessons of life are so important. So, thank you. I do appreciate your time today. Was I think it's a great way to end the podcast, and thank you for my audience. I'm pretty sure you love Emery's insights and words of
I was
wisdom.
going to say one more thing, because I think
Yes.
y'all hear about like the AIs, all the power it's consuming, all the data centers that have to be built. There's not enough
Uh-huh.
power. And I thought about it the other day. I go like, we actually, when you think about all the refrigeration, all the air conditioning that's out there, that's running inefficiently, if you could optimize them and save 20, 30%, that would pretty much cover what AI needs in data centers.
Mm.
Power's already there. We're just wasting so much of it.
Mm-hmm. Good reminder, too, for the listeners that have needs on refrigeration. We will be adding Emery's contacts and NRM contacts in the show notes. So please don't hesitate to reach out to him to talk more about your needs in terms of refrigeration.
Well, thank you for the ad. I
Yes, absolutely.
didn't know
Always.
that was included.
Yes, always. It's a win-win, right? We all help each other.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again, and to my audience, thank you so much for listening to one more episode of Shift Happens podcast. See you next time. Bye bye.